All right. My next guest is a published Disney author, podcaster, YouTuber. If you have used the internet in the past decade or so, there's a very good chance you've come across this man and his book and website from screen to theme. His latest YouTube video, Coast to Coast Crazy Challenge, is getting a lot of attention. I actually met up with Brent while he was visiting the California coast. We'll get to that in a little bit, but first, please welcome my next guest, Brent Dodge. Brent, how are you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Justin?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I mentioned we did meet up at the park recently. We've been friendly with each other for about a decade or so, about going back 12 years. But I want to start. Let's start with, I guess, the beginning. I mean, I know, knowing you like I know you, you're pretty much a jack of all trades. You are the self-acknowledged Disney expert, but would it be accurate to say your expertise is Disney World specifically? Would you
Uh,
agree with that?
I would say yes. My biggest expertise would be Disney World. I know stuff about Disneyland and the cruise line and stuff too in the movies, but Disney World is home.
Yeah, it is your big passion, I would say.
Big time. 100% agree.
So let me ask, when do you remember your first trip to Walt Disney World? I mean, how often do you used to go? I know, we'll get into these days how you go every single day, let's should say, but that wasn't always the case, I assume.
No, because I grew up in Wisconsin, so I don't remember my first trip. My first trip I was less than one. But we used to come down. My aunt actually lives about 2 to 3 hours south of Walt Disney World. So we used to come down every year to go see my aunt and my cousins, and we would stop at Disney for a few days or a week or whatever. And the first time I remember was probably around 2 or 3, and I remember thinking someday I want to live here. And I remember telling my parents that, and they thought it was, a funny little joke by a little kid. And then I remember telling my grandma, and she's like, "If that's what you want to do, that's what you're going to do." So I made it happen.
Yeah, it's very sage advice from grandma.
Very yes.
I mean, if you have a dream, you follow it.
Yeah, and it's especially even if you're 2 or 3, it stuck with me. I vividly remember the conversation with her. I remember where we sat and everything else like that. But it came true.
Did you inspiring? Did you go every single year, or was it like every other year? Or
It was typically every year. There was a few times where we missed the year, but I think it was almost every single year for the first 19 years of my life before I came down and did the college program.
yeah, I mean, to I guess keep it to the theme of the show. I mean, I know Mickey's Toontown Fair, as it used to be called at Disney World, is no longer there. Do you, remember going to Mickey's Toontown, or what it used to be called Mickey's Birthday Land or Mickey's Starland? Do you
I
remember?
I vividly remember Mickey's Birthday Land like it was yesterday. That was my first exposure to that area. It was back in 1988, and I vividly remember going there. They had a cow whose name was Minnie Moo. Minnie Moo on the side of her had a spot that actually was shaped like Mickey. So it was a hidden Mickey on a cow, and I remember going there. And then when they switched over to Mickey's Starland, it kind of got a little retheme that kind of looked similar to Duckburg from DuckTales. And they also had a Disney afternoon stage show. And I remember going to see that. And then obviously Mickey's Toontown Fair was a huge. I loved Mickey's. I was there the last day it was there. I remember being there closing day.
Yeah,
And
I vaguely remember. What are some of your favorite memories of that? Was like, I imagine the last day and recording it was a highlight.
that was a highlight, but it was also very sad.
Yeah,
It was one of those things where it was supposed to be a temporary land, and it ended up being a longer than they expected land. But yeah, I remember meeting Mickey. Minnie's house was always my favorite part. There were so many different interactive elements. My favorite part of Minnie's house is in the back area, and I can't remember if they have this at Disneyland's in Minnie's house, but in the back area they had a little porch, and it was all for different plants. Do they have that in Disneyland?
Yeah, they do. I mean, it's not as big as Disney World, but like, yeah, she does have, that she does have her house where you go in. You get to see her little living room, which she has like a chair, and then she has a magazine on the chair called Jessica's Secrets. And
I
then
do remember that. Yeah.
yeah, you do walk into the kitchen, the kitchen area, and then there is sort of a back exit from the kitchen, and you see plants, but that's kind of about it as far as the
Well,
backyard.
so her plants at Disney World were like they would have daisies there, but it would be Daisy Duck's face on the plants, and then they had tiger lilies that looked like tigers and tulips that looked like tulips. I loved it. It was such a great theme in that area, and I was so upset when they closed that.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, what I love, like thinking back on at the moment we're recording this, Disneyland's Toontown is currently under construction right now. But I love like all the little details, like about it. I didn't really go to Disney World's Toontown that much, but do you remember like what are some of your favorite details of that land?
Um, of the Disney World one.
Yeah,
Yeah. So the flowers were a huge highlight for me. I also loved going through in Mickey's house. If you went into the garage, there was all these different tools and stuff, but there was little cans for the Mojave Oil Company. And Mojave Oil Company, the only other place that you can find a reference to it in Disney World was actually back when the Studio Backlot Tour was around. They had the giant tanker truck that would, move down and it would explode. And the tanker truck was actually the Mojave Oil Company as well. So different things like that. And then if you went inside of Donald's boat, there were a map with, the islands, but all the islands looked like different duck characters. So they had a Scrooge McDuck there. They had Ludwig von Drake. They had Donald, Huey, Dewey, Louie. So many different details.
yeah. We have talked a little bit about Disney World's Toontown on the show in the past. When I interviewed Tammy Tuckey, she had fond memories of Goofy's Barnstormer. Do you have any fond memories of Goofy's Barnstormer?
Well, the Barnstormer, at least the Barnstormer is still the same as it is now, the ride itself. But
Yeah.
what I did like about the old one was I love the queue. Because the queue now it's still good because it's all themed around the Great Goofini. But when it was the original Barnstormer, when you would walk through, you'd be walking through a farm field. And in the farm field, there was squash, but the squash was squashed. And then there was popcorn, and it was corn, but it looked like popcorn, like it was stalks of corn. And then I always liked going through. I mean, you would go through the barn on that one, which made it a lot more fun too.
Yeah, I mean that's so it's pretty much the same ride, right?
Yeah, it's the same exact track and everything else like that. They just rethemed the area around it.
Yeah, because so yeah, I guess you could talk a little bit about like what's over there now. Like basically for the listeners listening who may not know, it did close, I believe, in 2011 to make way for new Fantasyland. But like, what specifically like is there now?
Yeah, so it's now the Storybook Circus section of Fantasyland. So it's still technically part of Fantasyland. But the Barnstormer is still there. Next to the Barnstormer, it used to be a little bit of the Tomorrowland Speedway track. They shortened that up to put Dumbo over there. So unlike in Disneyland where you can go into Fantasyland and ride Dumbo now, or behind the castle, I should say, now you have to go way off to the side to ride Dumbo, which I don't like that much. But in addition to that, they have a circus tent. They used to have the judges tent where Mickey actually was doing his meet and greets. But now they have a different circus tent there, and they have a different circus tent in the back area for Pete's Silly Sideshow. And it's Peg Leg Pete, and he's having it so you can come in, you can meet the Great Goofini, you can meet Donald Mysterio, and then they also have Minnie and Daisy there as well. And Minnie's got a bunch of little puppies, and Daisy can tell your fortune.
Is it still a queue line for Dumbo?
The queue right now is they've got a fast pass, or I'm sorry, a lightning lane. I keep on calling it fast pass, but a lightning lane and a regular line. And then they actually have it so they've done something new over there, which is really cool, is they have an interactive queue. But the interactive queue is you can either choose to continue staying in the line, or you can leave the line and go to a play area and get a little buzzer, and they'll let you know when it's your time to come back into the line. So in there, they've got some really cool things. It's a little like 2-3 story thing for kids to play around on, some slides. But my favorite detail that I think Justin you would love is on one of the pictures. They've got this picture of all these different circus clowns, and if you look at the circus clowns, there are 7 of them, and these 7 circus clowns are people like Ward Kimball, and so it's actually the members who were the animators for the Firehouse 5+2. So it's the 7 of them dressed as clowns as firefighters as the Firehouse 5+2. But you don't realize, I mean, 99% of the people who walk by it have no idea what.
that is a great Easter egg. Like, it kind of reminds me of that, like in Mickey's house, you see the picture of, the infamous picture of Walt and Roy next to Mickey with the Oscar. Like, in Mickey's house. Like, so I love little Easter eggs like that.
Yeah, and they also actually have another one of the Firehouse 5+2 inside of the tent for the merchandise shop. If you look at the fire extinguishers there, it says Firehouse 5+2 Fire Company, so you can get the fire extinguisher out if there is a fire.
Yeah, I mean, you did, going over the history of that land. You did briefly touch on the fact that it was big on the Disney afternoon played a big role in the creation of the land. I know besides Disney World, Disney Afternoon, particularly one show, was a big influence on you. Do you want to go into that?
For me, DuckTales. Actually, here I mean, you can see it. People listening can't, but I got my DuckTales mug right next to me right now. Something about DuckTales struck with me. I don't know if it was, you know what? This is the thing I love about DuckTales, and I've realized this throughout the years. Is most cartoons like Tailspin. I love Tailspin, but Tailspin, the majority of the episodes are at Cape Suzette. Cape Suzette, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing I loved about DuckTales is, you would have some episodes that would take place in Duckburg, but then they would also be traveling all around the world. And so you never knew what episode you're going to be tuning into, whether or not you're going to have it so they're in Duckburg, or it was going to be some big lavish adventure that they're going on, which I always loved about DuckTales, is it was never the same thing over and over and over again.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and it's no coincidence that both George Lucas and Steven Spielberg have admitted that, those Carl Bark comics, which of course inspired DuckTales, were inspiration for Indiana Jones. The boulder scene in particular was lifted right from a Carl Barks comic.
Yes, it was. And most people don't realize that.
Yeah, I mean, so, it was, in a way, Scrooge McDuck was the original adventurer.
He was the original. No one can take it away from him.
Yeah, so do you want to go into, like, the history or your fandom in the Duck family tree? I think this is the part of your show, Brent, where you could talk all about Cornelius Coote, all you'd like.
Oh, so okay, and let's talk a little bit about how Cornelius Coote.
I mean, I know we only have an hour, but try your best.
Well, okay, so for Cornelius Coote, for those who don't know, Cornelius Coote is the founder of Duckburg, and he is actually the great grandfather of Scrooge McDuck. So great of Donald Duck, and great of Huey, Dewey, and Louie. But Cornelius Coote, he's the founder. If you ever read the actual Scrooge McDuck comics, there are multiple times where you can actually find a giant statue of Cornelius Coote in the middle of Duckburg as the founder of Duckburg. But if you go through, and if you went to old Mickey's Toontown Fair in the center of the entire area, there actually was a statue of Cornelius Coote, which 99.99999% of the people had no idea who he was.
I mean, I
And
know who he is.
you know who he is, but I guarantee the average person visiting Disney World is like, I don't know who this person is at all. And so you would go there, and on the bottom of it, and I'm gonna probably butcher it because I can't remember, but it said something down the lines of Cornelius Coote. Oh wait, how did it go? I'm butchering it already. Cornelius Coote was the founder of this fair. Because of him, we dedicate the square, or something down those lines. But they had a picture of him in the middle, and he was up in his hand. It was a group of corn.
Yeah, because he was like corn industry was, I believe, how he founded Duckburg, right?
Yep, yeah, that's exactly how he founded Duckburg.
Yeah, I mean, I've once like told like someone I'm dating all about like the Duck family tree, and I guess her reaction was sort of like nerd. So yeah, so like so what are some of your favorite like ducks? Like can you name every single duck in the Duck family tree?
I don't know if I could name every duck in the duck family tree. I do have actually right next to me. I always keep my handy dandy, the life and times of Scrooge McDuck. But on here, you actually have the duck family tree in here. And I think I might have misspoke earlier. Scrooge wasn't a descendant of Cornelius Coote, but Donald was.
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
his.
yeah. Scrooge was from the McDuck because Donald. For all the listeners, I know this is probably obvious information to everyone listening out there, but Donald's mother was Hortense McDuck, and then his father was Quackmore Duck. So Scrooge McDuck was on Donald's mother's side. So if you've wondered, wait, why is Donald and Huey, Dewey, Louie call Scrooge uncle? Like, how does that fit in? Well, Uncle Scrooge is from Donald's mother's side, whereas I believe Cornelius Coote is from the Quackmore.
That's from Ducks. The Quackmore. Yeah, Quackmore's last name was Duck.
Yeah.
Very original last name.
Yeah, well, I believe in the Duck universe, Duck is like Smith. It's just, common name everyone has.
It is, yeah, because he had Cornelius Coote had Clinton. I think it was Clinton. Let me check my notes. Yeah, Clinton Coote. And then Clinton Coote had Grandma Duck. People have always seen Grandma Duck. She's in a lot of comics. She's been in a lot of comics throughout the years. And then Grandma Duck would go on to have, eventually get to Donald and everyone else like that. So, yeah, I don't know, the whole Duck family tree. I think one of the things I love about it is the fact that there's not a lot of detail. Like when you look at like Mickey and Minnie, I love Mickey and Minnie, but it kind of stops with Bertie and Morty. Like there's, they don't go into a whole lot more detail.
There's not a ton of backstory.
No. And I think what Carl Barks did so well with Scrooge is he created this big elaborate backstory with all these different characters and there's history there. And people always ask me why Scrooge McDuck is my favorite Disney character. And I said, he's got more backstory than anyone else. I've never seen more backstory with any character, and just kind of cool because they've got a story all the way from when he was a child all the way up to now when he's still running around and doing adventures around the world.
Yeah, it would be great. I don't know if you ever took advantage, like back in the D23 Expo 5 years, and it did travel a little bit. There was a opportunity where you could jump in Scrooge's money bin. Have you ever jumped in Scrooge's money bin?
Unfortunately not. No, I missed that expo and I was so bummed because I really wanted to do that. But yeah, unfortunately, I never had the opportunity to.
I missed it at the expo, but I do know there was like a local mall in Los Angeles that it popped up. I was like, okay, I drove all the way just for a photo op of jumping into Scrooge's money bin. So it never came to Florida.
Yeah, I never came to Florida.
Yeah, but have you played the DuckTales Remastered, the video game?
I have done that. Yes, that's a great game.
It is a great game. I mean, it's one of the few games recently that I've played.
Yeah, I think that probably is the last game I've played.
So yeah, I mean, you have any other like Well, I mean, I'm going to ask you a question that I know the answer to, but obviously plenty of people probably have always wondered, but never actually bothered researching. Who's Huey, Dewey, and Louie's parents?
Huey, Dewey, and Louie's parents. It's Della Duck, and Della Duck
And
actually makes
yeah,
and Della Duck's the dad is a mystery.
yeah.
They've never said who the father is. There is a rumor going around right now. I don't know if you've seen it. Last week someone posted a thing online and it kind of went mini viral about how the true story is not only is Donald their uncle but also their father. And I said no, that's not
Uh,
true. uh,
no, no,
so that I've
no.
had probably 15 to 20 people who've sent that to me over the last week, and I'm like, guys, no, that's not true. Like, ignore that. No, the father is a mystery, and I don't know if we'll ever know, and I'm perfectly fine if we never know too. I like when we have a mystery like that. I
Yeah,
love
and it
Della Duck too, though. Della Duck is such a great character.
yeah, and it does kind of make her relatable that she had a fall, that she kind of fell for a deadbeat dad.
It's true. I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah, and yeah, Della, like, and before they rebooted DuckTales, I don't know how you feel about the DuckTales reboot. Obviously the one from the 80s is classic, but yeah, I mean, I did kind of like in the reboot that they actually introduced us to Della and really gave us more to her.
Oh, a whole lot more to her.
Yeah,
I absolutely loved. I actually loved the reboot. I went into it and I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna like this at all, but I personally thought it was a great show.
yeah, it probably ended too earlier than it should have, because it never did
It
get 100 episodes, whereas the original show did.
Yeah, and the reboot, the only thing I didn't like about it was I felt like the ending was so abrupt because I think all of a sudden they're like, okay, you're coming to an end, and they're like, we have all these storylines we have to wrap up. Let's wrap them up right now in one episode, which I appreciate the fact that they wrap them up, but at the same time, I think they could have done a little bit more if they had a little bit more time.
Yeah, so the original show will always reign supreme to me.
100%. Yeah, the original one is the best, but I will not knock the reboot at all.
Oh yeah, and I mean, if nothing else, I'm sure I'm sure there's some people out there who know about DuckTales and the family tree, who are now fans because of that show. It introduced it to a new generation.
100%. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I know you have, like, I think nieces or nephew. Like, do they share like that passion? Like, have you introduced them to the Duck family tree and try to share your passion to them?
Not yet. They're still relatively young that I don't think. I did watch when the Chippendale Rescue Rangers movie came out last year or this year. I did tell my brother, I said, make sure that the kids watch this. And he said, well, we're going to watch the cartoon first so they kind of have an idea. And my nephew is a huge Chippendale fan now. Like, he is upset, not just with Chippendale Rescue Rangers, but also the old cartoons. I guess he's watching constantly now. So proud uncle.
Yeah, yeah, proud of, like, yeah. Well, since you brought up the Chippendale movie, of course, I had to see that when I found out Roger Rabbit had a cameo in it. What did you think of Chippendale's Rescue Rangers, the movie?
Oh, I've said this to a few people over the last few months, and they think I'm joking, but I'm 100% serious. It's my favorite movie that's come out in 2022 so far. Like, without a doubt, I absolutely love it. I think it's such a good movie. I've watched it at least 10 times. I know some people don't feel the same way, but I personally think it's a great movie.
Yeah, I like it a lot too. I mean, I don't know if I love, like, if it's an all time favorite, but I did really like. I got a kick out of it.
Yeah, just I think part of it is there's so many different tributes to old cartoons, to old Disney things that I feel like every time I've watched it, I've seen something new that I'm like, oh, I didn't notice that the last time. That's a great little detail too.
Yeah, a lot of surprises. Honestly, there's actually currently at Disneyland, they have those window displays on Main Street, and then
Yep.
they have like a little advertisement for like a little movie. currently there's like one advertisement that has Turning Red, and then the other is the advertisement for the Chippendales Rescue Rangers movie.
Oh, I didn't see that when I was out there.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, it's it's just it's not big. It's just a little promo poster. It just cracks. Like, I never thought we'd get to a point where there would be a movie at Disneyland that they're promoting at Disneyland that has a South Park character in it. Like, never thought that would happen in my lifetime. But it just goes to show, life can go in interesting directions. Certainly that movie did.
That movie definitely did. But that's what I think was so great about it, is how many characters and they pulled from different, not just Disney properties, but other properties as well.
Yeah, at the very end, I think they were sort of just, having joking about Marvel and how Marvel always sort of teases another movie at the end of their movies. But they did sort of throw maybe a Darkwing Duck could be next. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think a Darkwing Duck movie would be amazing. I think Darkwing Duck is such a great show. And I feel
so
like
DuckTales is obviously number one. What would be like number two of those Disney afternoon shows?
My favorite was DuckTales, and then Tailspin, then Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, and then Darkwing Duck.
Yeah. And those were like the four big ones. And then like, didn't they have like some other like side ones they added on later?
Yeah,
like,
it was the original
Timon
lineup. Yeah, the Timon and Pumbaa one. The original lineup was The Adventures of Gummy Bears, DuckTales, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, and Tailspin. And then what they did for a while there was they would get rid of one show every year and then add a different show. So we got Darkwing Duck, Goof Troop, Gargoyles, Timon and Pumbaa. Lots of really good shows, some not so great shows as well. They had Bonkers, which I was never a big fan of Bonkers, but
what intrigues me about Bonkers was that it was supposed to be the Roger Rabbit show, but of course there was some unfortunate copyright issues with, there was a bit of a feud with Eisner and Spielberg at the time, so they couldn't quite they couldn't quite do a Roger Rabbit show. So Bonkers, for those listening who don't know, is basically Roger Rabbit without the copyright. And it sort of has the idea of like, it doesn't play with a lot where they have like all the Disney characters in it. But I think like the first episode has the Mad Hatter in it. Like, I've not seen every single episode of Bonkers, but
I've been watching Bonkers. I've been watching one episode a week because I did my podcast. I was talking about it not that long ago about Bonkers and how it's my least favorite show. And someone said, you should watch it again because maybe you'll like it. And I watched the first episode and I said, you know what? It's better than I remember it. So I've been doing one episode a week like it was just a regular TV show. And they've had a lot of characters. A lot of characters have popped up. One of the ones I just watched was Lady and the Tramp. Dumbo was in it. Trying to think of the other, but there's a lot of characters are just randomly popping up either in the background or actually having scenes with Bonkers.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I have a whole podcast dedicated to Roger Rabbit, but as you know, Roger Rabbit's sort of one movie, so there's not a ton to like talk about like every single week. But one idea I did have was like, maybe I could just, do a whole episode watching and reviewing Bonkers. And maybe you could rejoin me and, once you finish the show and we could talk about Bonkers.
I would do that. Yeah, because I'm enjoying it a lot more than I thought I was going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think I finished episode 20 the other day, I think it was. So I got 44 to go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's 65 episodes, right?
Oh, is it 65 in that one?
I don't know, because like 65 episodes was always like the go-to amount of episodes that a animated show would have. If the show was like a huge hit, like a juggernaut, like a DuckTales or a Kim Possible, they would go over, like they would like make 100 episodes, but pretty much all the shows like had 65.
Yeah, and I was gonna say maybe it's 65. I thought I said 64 the other day, but it might have been 65. I might have just misread it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like, we'll probably we could maybe talk about Bonkers in more detail the other time. I'd have to dive into the Disney Plus, fault. But
Yep.
let's go. We spent last half hour geeking out about the Duck universe. Let's go on to some of your work. When did you start doing the crazy challenges? The first one I really remember, really paid attention to, it was the time when you raced the monorail. So
that one's still one of my favorites. So the history of the crazy challenge is actually, it started in 2010. It was right after I moved down here, and my friend and I, we figured it out that the 3 fireworks shows for the 4th of July were all an hour apart from each other. And I said, oh, you know what? We can do all 3 fireworks shows for the 4th of July in the same night. And so we went for it. We started at Magic Kingdom, then we went to Studios, and then we went to Epcot. And so we're kind of going through, and we're trying to, we accomplished it, and we were talking about it afterwards about how much fun it was. And we started talking a little bit afterwards, and I said, that was a great idea for like a crazy challenge. And we started talking about other challenges that Disney does or people do at Disney. And the one that always bothered me was when people would say, I did the 4-park challenge. And they say, oh, like you go to Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, and Animal Kingdom all on the same day. And I said, that's not a challenge. That's a Tuesday for me. Like that's, it's not that big of a challenge. And so we created that was actually the birth of the crazy challenge. Was us sitting there after the 4th of July, and I said, what we could do is we can make a thing called the crazy challenge, and we could do all 4 parks, but let's turn it into something bigger. And so we said, let's do the 5 most popular attractions at that time at every single park. So 20 attractions altogether. So we did at Magic Kingdom, the 3 mountains, Peter Pan's Flight, Buzz Lightyear. Epcot, we did Test Track. At that point, Maelstrom was still around. Soarin', I'm trying to Spaceship Earth, and I can't think of it. Oh, Mission Space. And then at Hollywood Studios, it was the Great Movie Ride at that point, Tower of Terror, Rock and Roller Coaster, Toy Story Mania. And
wait, so how did you determine which 5 rides were the most popular?
Whatever had the longest wait times, whatever the average of the longest wait times were. Okay. On an average basis, whatever. So yeah, so we ended up with 20 attractions, and then we decided that wasn't crazy enough. And so we added in more things, like I had a juggle in front of every single World Showcase pavilion, all 11 pavilions, and we had to meet at least 1 character. We had a pin trade for 3 specific pins. And then we decided we're going to go to Disney or Downtown Disney at that point for South Bend. And then we also had to go to Pop Century, because at Pop Century every day at 5:00 in the afternoon, they do the hustle in the lobby. So we did that. And then, yeah, it just kind of spiraled from there, where all of a sudden I was doing about 1 a year. And then now I try to do a little bit more. But yeah, my top 3 is probably that one, the 4-park one, and then probably the racing the monorail, and then the one that we just attempted, the Coast to Coast Crazy Challenge.
Yeah. I mean, well, the monorail was like really fun. Do all the mountains in one day.
Yes, the 7 summits.
Her response was, "This is making me feel anxiety."
That's and it's funny because because I do a YouTube video every day right now, and a lot of my videos are, look at this fun fact, or look at this detail, or let's take 5 minutes to relax at the park, and then I do the crazy challenges, and it's the opposite. It's a lot more intense of, is he gonna make it? Is he, and it's one of those where, and the thing that I always like about the crazy challenges is, if I fail at the crazy challenge, I still upload the video, because I want people to see that we're not, I'm not attempting this multiple times until I show you the correct one. There's times where I fail, there's times where we succeed, and you never really know what's going to happen until you're actually watching it, which I think is a lot more fun to do. The 7 summits, though, the 7 mountains, my car keys no longer do the beep beep because of that challenge. because one of the summits was Summit Plummet, which is the water slide over at Blizzard Beach. And I literally ran into the park to go down Summit Plummet and then to run out because I gave myself only like 4 hours to go through and do Expedition Everest, Summit Plummet, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, Space Mountain, Splash Mountain, Mayday over at Typhoon Lagoon, and then also the mountain that's over at the mini golf course. And so I ran into Blizzard Beach. I went down the water slide. I had my keys in my pocket because I was just going up and running out. And when I got to the bottom of the water slide, I grabbed my I had my shirt and stuff, and I was running to the parking lot, and I'm going for my keys in my pocket, and they're missing. And then I'm like, oh my God, I lost my car keys. So I ran back, and then I looked at where people are coming into Summit Plummet, and I saw my car keys in there swimming around. I'm like, oh, so I had to tell the lifeguard, and then they actually had to close Summit Plummet for a maintenance guy to come over and get them for me.
Oh my
so
God.
Because of that one, I did break Summit Plummet that day.
Yeah, I mean, well, since you brought up, just to illustrate how big of a Disney fan you are, who do you drive, Brent?
I drive Herbie the Love Bug. Herbie the Love Bug is my car. And sometimes when I say that, people go, oh, you have a Volkswagen. I'm like, no, I actually have a Volkswagen Beetle that I've dressed up. It looks just like Herbie the Love Bug. It's got the numbers, the stripes.
53.
Complete with the 53, complete with the stripes, and also the authentic stripes, not the Lindsay Lohan movie, which most people are like, oh, it's the Lindsay Lohan movie. No, there's a lot of other movies too.
Yeah. So listen, if you ever thought you were a Disney fan, listeners, Brent Dodge drives Herbie the Love Bug.
Yes. I actually got into back in 2009, I met Jeffrey of D23. And he's like, and him and I were there, and we were comparing notes about who the bigger Disney fan is. And when I said, I drive Herbie the Love Bug, he goes, oh my God. He goes, I found someone who's a bigger fan than me. I was like, there you go.
Yeah. I don't drive Herbie the Love Bug. I've just fun fact, I actually bought a car from CarMax, a used car. The person who sold it to me was named Dean Jones. Not
was it really?
That up. Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah. When I saw that, I'm like, wow, Disney's my whole life pretty much. I mean,
Dean
it's
Jones,
maybe not as impressive as driving Herbie the Love Bug, but I just love the fact that some car salesman who gave me the car was named Dean Jones.
You got the guy who was Jim Douglas. That's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, let's talk about, going back to the crazy challenges. This new one is probably your craziest. Would you agree? The coast to coast, because it's what made you decide to go to try to do Disney World and Disneyland in the same day? I mean, most people would just not even try.
So we had been talking about it for years. My friend Frank did the whole challenge with me, and we'd been talking about it for years and years and years and years and years. And I said, I want to do this at some point. And he celebrated his 50th birthday recently, and he wanted to do something special for his 50th birthday. And he called me up and he said, hey, he goes, how about around the time when I'm, when it's my birthday? He goes, I want to do something big. He goes, maybe not on the day, but maybe a few weeks later, and we can do some big celebration. And he said, how about we do that challenge that we've talked about in the past? And at that point, the challenge was, let's figure out what we're going to do between both Disney World and Disneyland and do both of them at the same time, do this on the same day. And so we were talking for probably half an hour, just kind of pitching out ideas. And he said, which rides are at both parks? And so I started listing them off. I said, oh, there's, it's 14 of them plus the monorail, so 15 altogether. And he goes, what if we did both parks and the exact same rides in both parks on the same day? So 30 attractions,
light bulb went over your head, right?
Yeah. And we said, you know what, let's do it. So we started looking up flights, and a lot of people have been asking us, why didn't you do a direct flight? And the reason we didn't do a direct flight was mainly due to the fact that if we did a direct flight from Orlando to any of the spots, LAX or John Wayne or whatever, the flight would have either gotten us in too early, so we wouldn't have been able to do everything at Magic Kingdom, or it would have gotten us in too late, so we wouldn't have been able to do everything at Disneyland. So the only option we had was doing a layover flight. And so we got a layover flight, and the layover flight did kill us a lot, but it was a great day. It was like I think it's the best challenge we've ever attempted. It was 21 hours straight from when we woke up to when Disneyland closed.
Yeah, I mean, and I won't spoil it because we want people to listen to the video. I assume watch the video.
Yeah, definitely watch the video.
Yeah, but I did manage to catch you guys on camera doing the challenge.
Yeah, it was funny because that night we were back at the hotel and I was editing the video because on top of doing
this was when you were in Disneyland, because I was not in Florida. I live on the other coast, but yeah, you were doing the Magic Kingdom in the morning, and at night you were at Disneyland California.
Yeah, and there was lots of logistics. A lot of people have been asking about how we did without going into all the details, but I will say for the Magic Kingdom part, we destroyed the Magic Kingdom part. We did extremely well in the Magic Kingdom part. And part of it is,
you've only been to the Magic Kingdom. Well, you only went to Disney World 370 days in a row once. So kind of, yes. I don't know how you managed to kill that.
Yeah, we had a lot of logistics.
That's a whole other story. But
yeah, well, we did the logistics for Magic Kingdom, and then literally every single night for about 4 weeks, I was on the Disneyland app looking at all the wait times and figuring out, okay, at 7 p.m., what are the wait times? At 7:30, what are the wait times? And we had a great game plan going into the whole thing. It was a crazy day, an exhausting day, but one of the best days ever.
Yeah. So were you like checking like you had like, you mentioned you had like the Magic app and all that, like, were you like checking the wait times while you were riding the rides and like,
we were, yeah. So yeah, when we were like over here, the things that did kill us was we had a few rides that broke down, which we had to keep on checking the app to make sure that the ride was back up. Both Splash Mountain and Jungle Cruise broke down at one point or another when we were actually supposed to be riding both of them. And actually, it's funny because if you watch the video now, I just watched it yesterday for the first time in full since I posted it. And during that part, I was like, we never really go into this more, but we're on the Speedway, and I said, our first fast pass is good right now. And the fast pass we had was for Splash Mountain, and our plan was we're going to ride Big Thunder Mountain Railroad because there was a low wait, hop on Splash Mountain, and while we're in line for Splash Mountain, get our next Lightning Lane pass. And while we were running over there, we had a friend who was getting us water and getting me fuel rods because that was going to kill time if we were trying to get that. And she came up to us and she goes, "Oh, Splash Mountain's done." I was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "We hadn't looked at the app yet." And so we got off Splash Mountain or off of Big Thunder, and we ran past Splash Mountain, and sure enough, it was down. So we had to switch up our whole game plan on the fly there on what we were going to do now because we didn't have our Lightning Lane that we thought we were going to have at that point. But we made it work. So
yeah, I mean, it is quite a amazing challenge. Do you think you would like try it again?
Yes, we want to try it again, but we want to try it again at a point when the Walt Disney World Railroad is back up and running, and Disneyland's Haunted Mansion was down for refurbishment that day.
Yeah,
and so we want to do it again with the railroad and with the Haunted Mansion. So instead of doing 15 attractions, do 17 attractions.
Yeah, always gotta up it.
Yeah,
make so more challenging on yourselves.
And I also have another idea, but I'm not going to say that one yet. But I have another idea to make it even crazier. But I'm trying to figure out how to make that one work right now. But it would be an insane challenge if we can do it.
Yeah. So do you have like any crazy challenges like you're planning like within the next month or like pretty recent?
I have a few ideas for some. One of them is I posted on my Instagram the other day. I posted a picture from Animal Kingdom. This is the first time I've actually told anyone this one. So I posted a
Ooh.
picture of Animal Kingdom and I said, "What is your favorite Animal Kingdom attraction?" And a bunch of people listed off the things. And my thought is I might go through and do every single one of those attractions in the order that people posted it. So if five people said Kilimanjaro Safaris, I have to go on Kilimanjaro Safaris 5 times.
Oh, if they mentioned it multiple
Yeah.
times.
Yeah. So if one person said it and someone else said it, I'm going on that attraction twice.
Do so here's a question I just thought of. Do you ever get like tired of a ride going on it multiple times and like doing all these challenges? Like, is there a ride? I know you love.
No, I can't think of it. There's some rides where like I'll be like, I don't really want to go on. Like Aladdin's Flying Carpets at Magic Kingdom. I'm like, I don't need to do that one. But
I mean, there's got to be days where, like, I don't know, the teacups. You're just not in the mood to spin around.
yeah, I mean that's the nice thing about going all the time too, though, is because I'm there literally every single day. I mean, I'll be going after I finish talking to you.
Yeah,
um,
yeah. We had a true story, folks. We had to plan this meeting a couple hours early so that Brent got his park time because you're going to the park at 4 o'clock, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna go around 4 o'clock today. Yeah.
Yeah. The episode won't be posted by then, but chances are the day it will be posted, you'll be at the parks going at 4 o'clock anyway. So
Yeah, I started one of my friends' coworkers I met not that long ago, and they said, they say that you go to the park every day. So how often do you go? And this happens all the time. I go, it's every day. And they go, but how often is every day? I'm like, literally every day. And they're like, did you go today? Yes, I went today. Are you going to go tomorrow? Yes. Yeah, I've been living in Florida for 12, almost 13 years now. And since moving down, I have missed the park while being in the state of Florida a total of 3 times. And that doesn't count, like, obviously it was closed down and stuff. Yeah, like with pandemic, obviously. But even then, I was still going on property almost every day.
yeah, I remember a video you posted in 2020, like about how you going in the slides and you created like your own little Disney World of like made out of paper and like yeah. I mean, I know it was a crazy time and a lot of people, were having it pretty bad, but I still felt bad for you. You weren't going to your Disney parks.
Well, and I remember the last day that the parks closed down, I remember talking to a few people and they said, "Oh, this is going to be a killer for you." They go, "You go every day." And I remember saying, "Yeah, but at least it's only 2 weeks." Because at that point it was going to be 14 days. And I said, "At least it's only going to be 2 weeks." And I said, "I think for 2 weeks, at least I can keep myself busy." And then it ended up being a total of 70 days here at Disney World before Disney Springs reopened. Disney Springs, there's only so much you can do. Disney Springs is my least favorite part about Walt Disney World. I still enjoy it, but I don't go as often. And then I was going to Disney Springs literally every day. I was like, I gotta get over there again today. But I live not even a mile and a half away from Disney property. So I was doing a run every day and I would actually do my runs. I would make it so I would go onto Disney property for, even if it was 10 yards, just to say I went to Disney that day. But yeah, I've only missed going to the park. I think it's been 3 times with the parks actually being open and me being here. I mean, there's been a few times where they've been closed for the hurricanes and whatnot, but yeah, I literally go every day.
I mean, again, you're an inspiration, a Disney fan. Like, just when I think, I've done way too much as a Disney fan. I mean, I don't drive Herbie the Love Bug, and I don't go to the parks every single day.
I'm fairly extreme.
I mean, I go to the parks a lot. Don't get me wrong, listeners, but maybe not every single day.
Yeah, I've had a few people who've asked me if they think I go more than anyone else, and I said, at least at Disney World, when I did my 365 days for the first time, I did my 365 days in a row. Disney acknowledged me as the first person ever to go to Walt Disney World 365 consecutive days. So
Yeah, I did briefly see that guy who was at the other, who's at Disneyland, who, he got a lot of news press. He because he went apparently 1,000 days in a row. And I think you mentioned on social media, like how, okay, I'm seeing those articles, people, because people would send you those articles.
They would send me all the time. I was getting things when that guy did that. I was like, yep, well, he did at Disneyland and I did Disney World. My one rule is I always have to do something. Yeah. I can't walk in and walk out. I don't count that as I usually spend at least an hour there, depending on the day, because I do, I work full time in addition to all the other crazy stuff that I do. And so I'll walk and I'll do, a few rides, or if I'm at Epcot, I make sure that I at least walk around World Showcase once. I try to hit every section of the park every single time I'm at the park. So yesterday I was at Animal Kingdom and I made sure I went to Pandora, Africa, Asia, Dinoland, USA, before heading out for the day.
Yeah, and if you're at Magic Kingdom, I know this about you too. It's always have to go on the People Mover, right?
People Mover, yes, I have to go on People Mover. So we did back in 2011. Disney hosted the D23 scavenger hunt, the Walt Disney World scavenger hunt. They did one at Disneyland the previous year. They did it here as well. Our team name was actually the People Movers, and we were actually the winners of the D23, the official D23 Walt Disney World scavenger hunt. Where I think we beat second place by 8 points. So yeah, that was so pretty hardcore fan.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting close to the hour point. I know you got your park things, you got to attend to, but, I'm sure, a big reason you happily agree to come on the show is you got things to plug. So what are the things you plugged? I know you mentioned you're building up your YouTube page.
Building on my YouTube page. So I never took YouTube too seriously until about a year ago. So
honestly, we're the same that way. Like, that I pretty much uploaded more on YouTube this year than I've had in like the past 11 years.
Yeah. And about last year, right around this time, it was a few weeks. It was August 13th. It was 50 days before the 50th anniversary of Walt Disney World. And I created a series called the 50 Years, 50 Days, 50 Fun Find series, where every day I did a 50-second clip about something about a fun find about Disney World in honor of the 50th. And after I finished that, I was like, okay, 50 days in a row, that was a lot. I'm going to take a break and probably never do daily videos again. And about a week later, I was like, oh my gosh, I missed doing daily videos. So I'm back to doing daily videos again. And now, I'm trying to build up my YouTube. I post on Instagram every day from the park. I do a lot of Instagram stories so people can experience Disney World. And then I also post, I think, decent pictures of Disney World. But yeah, I've got 4 books. I've got From Screen to Theme, and then 3 books that are taking a look at like a closer look at things. It's actually called a closer look at the Magic Kingdom of Fantasyland, Frontierland, and Liberty Square. I'm currently working on a cruise line book right now, along with an Adventureland book. And then I've got my weekly podcast, The Wednesday Show, and I'm sure I'm missing some stuff because there's so much stuff.
Yeah, well, the one thing I do want to mention is, how is the website? Because I actually got to try to visit it today, and I couldn't quite do it because I know I used to upload photos, or I had photos uploaded on there. So how's the website? FromScreenToTheme.com.
The website got hacked into recently, so we're still working on getting everything back up and loading before we re-upload everything. So yeah, it was all of a sudden I get all these messages from people saying, I can't get onto your website right now. And I was like, no, it's on there. And then I let them, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's, and we recently discovered that someone hacked into the website. So trying to get that back up and running to the former glory that it was, but hopefully sometime in the next few weeks here, we'll have everything back and back to changed into how it was. And because they changed some stuff on the website.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to seeing the website again, and Brent, keep doing what you're doing. I always like seeing your pages up on Instagram. I mean, you give a little Disney magic every single day.
Well, I try. Thank you very much, Justin. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and so yeah, any last words?
I don't know. Have a magical day.
Yeah, have a magical day. I mean, what's your saying at the end of your podcast? Anything can happen if you let it.
Anything? Do you know where that's from? Anything can happen if you let it.
It wasn't it the Broadway version of Mary Poppins?
It was, yes. It was the Broadway version of Mary Poppins. It was when I first started doing all this stuff. I had someone who wrote to me and they said, "I feel like this phrase describes you more than any other Disney phrase," and I kind of agree. So I always try to make sure that anything can happen if you let it.
Yeah, well, that's true, and keep letting anything happen, Brent.
Thank you very much, Justin. I appreciate it.
Thank you for stopping by. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Enjoy the parks.
Will do.
All right. Bye, Brent.
Bye.